Hello and welcome to this session on the founding documents. A lot of this is going to include information that has already been included in the other sessions, but this is to get you ready for your quiz and just kind of a review of all the documents in one place. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Declaration and the Articles of Confederation, a lot about the Constitution, and then a little bit about the Bill of Rights as well. So this is strictly a review session. So our Declaration of Independence is written by Thomas Jefferson over the span of several months and adopted by Congress on July 4th, 1776. Basically tells England that we don't want to be a part of your country anymore. So the king violated the social contract talked about by Enlightenment philosopher John Locke. The king violated the social contract with the people, since the people get the government gets the power from the consent of the governed, and it justifies breaking ties with Britain. And it also lists a whole bunch of grievances or problems or illegal things that the king did. And a lot, like I already said, a lot of the ideas from the Enlightenment were used in this document, like John Locke's natural rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that all men have. Pursuit of happiness being stuff, property. The Articles of Confederation is what we write after the Revolution, and it is our first constitution. And basically, a constitution is any body of laws that constitutes a government. And if you look at this word right in the title called Confederation, a confederation is actually a system of government where most sovereignty or power remains with the state governments, not the national government. The opposite of that would be a unitary government, where the national government has all the power. There are examples of that around the world. There are examples of confederations around the world. And there are examples of what we have right now, which is called a federal system. And it's confusing because the national government is also called the federal government. But the U.S. wanted this system of government to avoid another strong central government like Britain had, because we just fought and died and spilled blood to free ourselves from a tyrant king. The U.S. Constitution goes into effect in 1789, written in 1789, and basically divided into a preamble, 7 articles, and 27 amendments. And it was to address the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation. It gave more power to the central government because the central government couldn't do anything under the Articles. So in our Constitution, we have 7 articles. The legislative branch is who makes the laws, the executive branch is who carries out the laws, and the judicial branch is who interprets the laws. Those are the important ones to know. The other ones, how states relate between one another, how the Constitution is amended, the fact that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, that's the Supremacy Clause, and Article 7 is ratification. How did it become ratified? Article 1, like we said, is the legislative branch, also known as Congress, and we decided on a bicameral legislature. That's 2 houses, and we have a Senate and a House of Representatives, and that's still how it is today. The House, the number of representatives a state gets is based on its population. For example, Indiana has 9, California has 55, because they are much more populous than we are. They're the most in the nation, 55. And every state has at least 1. So even Wyoming, the least populous state, they have 1. Representatives from the House serve 2-year terms, and they must be 25 years old. And something else about the House is all tax bills or bills involving money must originate in the House, because we thought that they're only having 2-year terms would make the representatives more responsive to voters, since they can get voted out in a very short period of time. The Senate, each state has 2 senators, and so each state is equal in the Senate. They serve 6-year terms, and they must be 30 years old. And the way it works is every 2 years, every even-numbered year, all 435 members of the House are up for election, and one-third of senators are elected. So every 2 years, so we have a cycle. Every senator goes under election every 6 years. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, there we go. Other congressional powers and limitations: they cannot tax goods sent between the states, but they can regulate interstate commerce. They can override a president's veto of a law with that should be 2/3 majority. I'll have to fix that. In charge of the post office, they control the military, but the president is the commander-in-chief. And it's currently 435 representatives and 100 senators. The executive branch is meaning the president. That's Article 2 of the Constitution. They are responsible for carrying out or executing the laws that Congress passes, and the head of the branch is the president. He must be 35 years old, a natural-born citizen, and a resident of the United States for 14 years. They can only serve for 2 terms now, or a total of 8 years. And that was made possible by the 22nd Amendment after Franklin Roosevelt was president for a record 4 terms. He died shortly into his 4th term, but no other president has served more than 2 except for Franklin Roosevelt. The cabinet. 15 of the departments in the executive branch are like the head departments, and they have leaders called their secretaries, and they advise the president. It's 15 currently. The original 3 were the Department of State, that handles foreign countries, the Department of the Treasury, that handles money, and the War Department, that handled war. Other facts about the president: if the president is killed, obviously the vice president takes over. If both of them are killed at the same time, the Speaker of the House takes over, and then that line goes 17 people deep, and they make sure that those 17 people are not in the same place at the same time, because then we would have no head of government. But if all 16 people ahead of that 17th person got killed, then that 17th person would be the president, and I believe that's the Secretary of Homeland Security. Article 3 is the Supreme Court, created by the Constitution. Its job is to settle any dispute regarding constitutional laws or conflicts between the state. It's the highest court in the land, and other state-level court cases can also go before the Supreme Court. They have to appeal to the court. And Congress actually created our system of federal courts, but that's made possible by Article 3. Judges on the Supreme Court and in our lower federal courts serve life terms, and those are appointed by the president. How do we amend the Constitution? We have 27. It's been 27 times. Either 2/3 of the House, of both houses, propose an amendment, and it's hard to get a 2/3 vote, so they purposely make this difficult. The second way it has never happened. 2/3 of the states hold constitutional conventions. That's never happened. And then it goes before the states to be ratified, and 3/4 of all the state legislatures must ratify it, or 3/4 of all the states must hold ratifying conventions, and that's how the 21st Amendment was ratified, and that is the one that brought back liquor in the 1930s. Other constitutional protections you have in the Constitution are bills of attainder. They cannot pass laws that single out a certain group of people. They cannot say, okay, all Muslims or all Christians or all Jews are this law and no one else is. You can't do that. One law is everybody. Writs of habeas corpus. If you are thrown in jail, they used to be able to throw people in jail and not tell them why, just to keep them out of the way. But if you are thrown in jail, you have the right to know why. There must be a reason. So that's why they have hearings before a judge to know why you are arrested, why you are in jail. Writs of habeas corpus. And ex post facto law. You cannot be punished for doing something before it was illegal. So if you speed down a road that is 45, or if you go 45 down a road that is 45 and they make it 30 the next day, you cannot be then arrested for going 45 when it was 45 miles per hour. The Constitution has a system built into it to prevent government abuse of power. And this system is called checks and balances. Here are some examples. There's a lot more than this, but the president appoints those judges and basically picks them for the Supreme Court, but those people must be approved by Congress. And a more common one is Congress passes laws, but the president can veto those if he doesn't like them. But then Congress can also check that power and override the president's veto with a 2/3 vote. The Supreme Court can invalidate any law it finds unconstitutional that's been passed by Congress. And this system prevents one branch of Congress or one branch of the government from becoming too powerful. The Bill of Rights were the first 10 amendments to the Constitution added right away to appease the Anti-Federalists, and they were added as a safeguard against government abuse of individual liberties. They didn't want a strong central government taking away the rights of people. So, First Amendment is the freedom of speech, press, and religion, and then the right to petition and assemble. I'm just going to hit the highlights here. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. The Fourth Amendment is you have the right to privacy in your own home. If a cop comes up, he needs a warrant to search your place or probable cause, and that's guarding against illegal search and seizure. The Fifth Amendment are your judicial protections. So the right to double jeopardy. You can't be tried for the same crime twice. Self-incrimination. You cannot be made to testify against yourself. And due process. You have there is a process you go through. If you break a crime, they cannot just throw you in jail and say you're guilty. You have the right to go through the process just like everybody else. Sixth Amendment, the rights of criminal defendants, like a speedy trial, right to a public trial, a trial by jury of your peers. You have the right to confront witnesses against you, etc. 8, no cruel and unusual punishment and excessive bail. Your bail cannot be set so high that you can't pay it. And 9 and 10 are pretty important. 9 is your rights are not limited to what is in the Bill of Rights. You have more. And an example of that would be the right to privacy set by Roe versus Wade in 1973, saying that a woman has a right to privacy in her own body. The government cannot outlaw abortions or anything that she wants to do with it. And 10, all powers not given to the federal government in the Constitution belong to the states. So that is an overview of all the documents that you will be quizzed over. And remember to use that pause button, rewind, go back to things you don't understand, and I'll see you in class.